Hello. In this video, we're going to look at a library I found called Python Mega Widgets. Python Mega Widgets is a library which we can use to create complex widgets, which constituent parts are made up of Counter widgets or some mega widgets themselves. I'll tell you what that means. I'll explain more what that means later on. So in order to convey this library, I'm going to go over the Counter widget, which seems to be the most simplest mega widget that I can show that will explain the premise of the library itself. So the first thing we need to do is import or download and install Python Mega Widgets, which is abbreviated to PMW. So once you do that, you simply import PMW. If you have questions regarding how to import libraries, there are two videos on the channel that will tell you how to do that. So we'll import PMW, and then we'll also import Counter. Now I like to put the prefix TK at the beginning so you can discern between which labels you're making and things like that. We will also, in order to make our simple application, we will make a root, of course, and then we will also initialize the root using PMW. Now, to be honest, I am not sure what this does fully, but I believe you should initialize the PMW whenever you plan to just on the root. Whenever you're doing it here, it's just one line, and I think that helps the library. So you should use it. You can disregard it. However, I would put it there as a safeguard. Just put it in. It's good practice anyway, so just put it in. Anyway, we'll also put in the root title. We'll make this, I don't know, counter app. How about that? Because we're going to be making counters. And if we do root.mainLoop now, and we run our app, we can see we've got counter app. We've just got a blank GUI, which is lovely. That's what we have. So let's begin by making a frame. Now, of course, root is a frame, but for this tutorial, we'll just make a frame. We'll call it my frame, and we'll say tk.frame root. Okay. And then we will do myFrame.grid, and in this grid we'll just put row equals 1, column equals 1, column span equals 5. So we have a nice big frame. And actually, let's do myFrame.configure, and we'll put the background to equal, let's say, pink. Just to show you where the frame is, where this my frame is. So if we run this now, since there's nothing in the frame, the background will not be pink, which is fine. We can continue. First things we need to do is make a counter. So counter equals, and then what we have to do is type PMW, and then hit dot, and then say counter, and then in the constructor all we have to do is pass in the frame that you want the counter to be in this case my frame. It's very similar. Again, this PMW is based off Counter. It's following the same rules as Counter. Whenever you make a label, you do tk.label, and then you have your frame. You put your frame in first, and then you would do everything else. So yes, so it's following the same rules here. So let's just see what that gives us. Oh, we would also need to, of course, grid our frame into our, it's not our frame, our counter into our frame. So we'll do row 1 and then column equals 1. Okay, run. Great. Okay, so we've got this counter, which is good. And as you can see, there's nothing in it at the moment. And we're getting little warning sounds whenever we try and click these buttons. So let me explain what this is. So this is a mega widget because it's constructed out of PythonMegaWidgets. This is an entry box. These two things are buttons. So the reason why we're erroring is because there's nothing in this entry box to increment. So if I put the number 5 in the counter and I click this button, it will increment by 1. And then if I click this button, it will decrement by 1. We can go down into negative numbers. We can hold the button down and it'll keep going up. So this is a very simple counter. And yeah, that's the counter widget. But you can see that it was made out of 3 different PythonMegaWidgets there. So what if we don't want to have a blank entry box there? What if we want to actually put something in? So we can do that by doing referencing the object and then doing set entry, and then we're going to put in a number. So it's counting integers at the moment. We can change that, and I'll show you how in a moment. But we can do counter.set entry at 10, and then whenever we run this, look at that, 10. And then we can increment it and we can decrement it. So yes, it's working well. Now, you're probably wondering, well, what function is being called every time I click the button? Well, it's very simple. All it's calling is counter.increment, right? So whenever I put this in here in the main, we're going to set the entry as 10, but we're going to increment it by 1, so it will be 11 whenever I run the program. And here we go, it's 11. And we can go up and we can go down, which is still the same. And of course, the opposite of increment is decrement, so we can do that and call that, and we can run this, and there we go, it's 9. It started at 9, and we can go all the way down, which is fine. So that's what you, the basic sort of manipulation, if you'd like, of the counter. Okay, so, hold on here. So, what are we going to do next? Well, we're going to have a look at how we're going to sort of change the data type of the counter. Now, counters can count many different things. The date, integers, floats. What we're going to do now is we're going to change the counter. Well, we're going to make a new counter, and we're going to have it so that it is counting the time. No, well, counting hours, minutes, and seconds. So that's what we're going to do, and let's do it now. So we're going to say time counter equals pmw.counter, and we'll pass in my frame because that's what we do first. And then in order to change the data type, all we have to do is type data type, and we were going to count the time, so we're going to put time in there. Okay, that's great. So what else do we have to do? Well, since we're counting the time, let's say this timer is it only counts minutes, okay? If we wanted to do that, we could set the increment to be 60. Now, this is very different from increment whenever you simply call counter.increment, because that is it's the same and it's not the same at the same time. I'll tell you what it means. So when I say increment equals 60, it means whenever I click the up button to make the value go up, we will go up by 60. But we will also, whenever I click the down button, we will go minus 60. So, and thus we can count the minutes. That's, we set the increment value there. And let me say, time counter dot set entry. Okay. And since we're counting our time, we'll do 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. There we go, as sort of a timer sort of thing. And then we will obviously have to grid our timer. So we'll do that. Okay, and we'll click run. And there we go, we have another timer. And this time it's counting time. And as you can see, we're going up in minutes now. And if we go all the way up to the next hour, it will increment over. And you can have negative times using this. Of course, that's up to the developer to detect if somebody's inputted a negative time, or if it's an intended feature. But you can see that this is simply an entry box and 2 buttons. But and you could implement this on your own, but using this library, it essentially takes a lot of the sort of having to set up like a variable to keep track of everything, and then having to put the buttons and making the functions and things, sort of takes all that away, and lets you get down to the more important things. Speaking of, I've not told you how to get the value out of the counter, which is not great. I should have probably did that at the start, but anyway, we can get the value of what's in the counter by simply calling .getValue on it. So let me show you an example. If we go back to the to this example here, where we've got set entry 10. So if I do print, and then the value of the first counter is, and then you do semicolon, well, you don't have to, but this is the format, and then you do the concatenation at string, and then counter dot, and then get value. Notice how it's not like set entry, it's get value. So set entry sets it, and get value is how you get it. So we'll run this now, and you can see the value of the first counter is 10, which is correct. So that's how you get the value as an integer, and so on and so forth. Okay, so to really hammer home the fact that this is widgets that are in a frame together and they are working together, I'm going to access different widgets. I'm going to independently change them. So let's do time counter dot configure, and have I discussed configure before? Well, I've used it here, and as you can see, my frame, I've changed it to pink by doing .configure. It's the same. It's again the PMW library draws heavy influence from the Counter library and uses the same sort of keywords and things. So in order to configure a PMW widget, all we have to do is use .configure, and then I'll open it up here. So we'll set the down arrow underscore background equals, and then we'll make it purple. How about that? And then we will also do up arrow underscore background, and we will make that blue. Okay, so we've changed it, the down arrow to be purple, which is the decrement one, and then the up arrow, which is the increment, is blue. So we'll run that now, and as you can see, it's worked. We've changed the time counter down arrow to be purple and the up arrow to be blue. Alright, so now, so that's how you access the individual widgets by just referencing them and configure. Now, the other thing that I wanted to show you is that, to hammer home, is that these widgets, though they may look as if it's one, I might just delete this counter here first. Hold on, let me to really hammer home this. So yeah, let's delete that there. Oh yeah, and remove the grid. Okay, so we've only got one counter now. So to really hammer home that this is simply just a button, an entry box, and another button in a frame, mind you. Now, I'm not talking about my frame. I'm not talking about my frame here. I'm talking about an internal frame that the PMW library uses. For each of its mega widgets, because these mega widgets have to be grouped. The constituent parts of the mega widget have to be grouped together in a frame in order to act as one. So these sorts of frames are called hulls. So if you read the documentation and you see the word hull and you don't know what that means, that's fine. It's referring to the frame that contains the constituent parts of the mega widget. Okay, so if we go back to the configure statement and say we want to make the frame that's holding the widgets to become sunken, similar to how you would want to edit a frame's appearance in Counter, all you have to do is use the hull accessor, which is hull underscore and then relief. Okay, and that will equal sunken, which is just going to be sunken. There we go. Right. Now we can also change, say, the border width as well. So we do hull underscore border width. Oh, sorry, border width there, and that'll equal 5. Okay, let's try that. Now you might not be able to see it, but there is a small effect there. Okay, now I'm gonna change this border width to 50 to really make it stand out here. There we go. So you can see that the border has definitely changed of this particular frame, not my frame. My frame has not been changed at all. I can maybe prove that then if I do tk dot label and then do my frame, and then I just put the text equal to hello, I'm a separate I'm a separate widget. I spelled that wrong. Yes, I have. Yes, there we go. Separate widget. Okay, and then if I dot grid that, if I do dot grid and then row equals 2. Well, that's okay. Yeah, row equals 3, even 3. Column equals 1. You can see that there we go. There, yeah. So you can see that this hull is only referring to the frame that's the frame that is holding these 3 Counter widgets, which are acting as one widget called the Mega Widget. So it's referring to the Mega Widgets frame, not that it's sitting in, but the Mega Frames frame that's holding the Counter widget. And it's quite complicated, but I hopefully have demonstrated the difference here. You can see that my frame is still exists. The sunken border width have not changed. Not changed by my frame. It's simply it's simply just the frame I've referred to, and as you can see, there we are with that label. Now, the very last thing that I wanted to talk about, yes, it was the orientation of the widget. So, if you would like, you can change the orientation. I think orient equals, yes, and then vertical, right? Let me see. Yeah, so if you would like to change the way the arrow, the buttons are, you can simply orientate it vertically, which is quite useful. Imagine if you had implemented this and then somebody said, "Oh, I'd rather have it like this," or "I'd rather have it like this," and you had it implemented the previous way. You'd have to go around and change and regrid your frame. But with this, you can simply orientate it, and it works fine. Yeah. So I think the Python Mega Widget library is very useful, and there'll be a few more videos on it, exploring all the different Mega Widgets. But this video was primarily just an introduction to the library itself and how it operates, as well as showing you the counter widget. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.